Hey guys, so I wanted to make this video about peaking because it's kind of a common thing that I see that not a lot of people talk about. And one of the students that I've been coaching in Diamond has this problem, and I didn't really realize why he was having this problem until I really broke it down. Um, it's actually really hard for me to even do just because it's natural for me to like peak the other way. So I guess I'll try to show what it looks like when you're peaking the wrong way. I'm just gonna run up and do it quick because I think if I do it this way, it'll be easier for me to do. So people tend to peak angles kind of like this, where they like keep their crosshair on the edge of the wall, right? And you'll probably see this a lot in deathmatch, where like people were like just keep their crosshair on the edge of the wall. Have your crosshair not in the wall, but head level on the edge of the wall. So people end up moving around the map like this. So what I noticed is like when someone's getting ready to peek an angle, instead of going like pre-aiming the angle through the wall and peeking directly like this, they just end up like moving like this, like they're like kind of like tracing the edge of the wall as they're peeking. So if I were to peek A Link right now, what the way I would do it, I was pre-aim, peek, right? But people, one of the issues I'll see is like crosshair, and then they just like scan over, right? And the problem with this scanning tactic, I guess, is like you start fanning the angle, right? So what happens when you, well, I guess I'll explain it like this. Your peak, the way you want to improve your peaking is to pre-aim the angle and just peek directly out, right? So if you're in mid window and you're peeking into mid, you don't want to like put your cross on the edge and go like this, right? Like you're just gonna die. Like, I mean, come on, like I think everyone can tell that this looks bad, right? But like instead, if like you pre-aim each angle, then you're gonna have a higher chance of getting these kills, right? So I guess it kind of debunks the idea of like keeping your crosshair on the edge of the wall all the time, and just make sure you're pre-aiming first. And I guess this kind of shows like your movement's kind of ahead of your aim, or maybe it's like in sync, but it's on like when you're peeking an angle, it's almost better to have your crosshair and your aim be ahead of your movement. So what that will look like is like, oh, I'm walking up B right now, and I want to peek left side. Let me move my crosshair first, peek the angle, move it again, peek the angle, right? Instead of, and this is what it'll look like faster. Move, something like that, right? And then this way, all you have to do is click. You know, like you have good crosshair placement, you click. That's what it means to have good crosshair placement. Your crosshair is ready on the target that you want to peek at, instead of like people think that good crosshair placement is just having your crosshair on the edge of the wall the entire time. So when they peek like this, they think, oh yeah, this is good crosshair placement. But you know how hard it is to peek the angle like this and then like I guess stop exactly on your angle. I don't know if like that's just me or what, but it's so much harder for me to peek an angle like this when I'm scanning instead of like pre-aim through wall and peek like this. And like it makes my movement a little bit cleaner too when I can peek through the wall, move crosshair, peek through the wall again. Like my peaks feel so much cleaner and faster. I'll try to show you guys what it looks like when you're just tracing the angle, and then I'll try to show you guys how like I normally play deathmatch. So here I'm just actively trying to keep my crosshair on the edge here. I'm not really peeking any angles. I'm just moving around the map with my crosshair on the edge of the wall. And you know, if you it doesn't really affect you that much if the target is really like far away, because it's pretty similar to like a normal peek. Um, so this moving around the map with your crosshair like this is good, but you see how like I'm not really ready to peek any angles. It's kind of just like I'm walking into the angle, I guess, instead of actively looking for that fight. In a real game, when someone's holding the other angle for you, like right there, that omen, there was no way I was gonna kill that guy in a real game, and that's why he just killed me right there. Is like I'm not peeking for that exact angle. I'm kind of just moving around, right? So you're not as ready because you're just tracing the wall, and then you're stopping and shooting the guy or trying to when you notice them, instead of like trying to isolate the angle that you're actually trying to fight, if that makes sense. So I'll show you guys like what it looks like to play, how I like to play deathmatch, or like how I move around the map in a real game. I tend to move my crosshair on the edge of the wall, and then as I'm coming up to an angle, I pre-aim it. So you see how I'm like putting my crosshair through the wall a little bit as I'm moving around. So like I'll hold the edge of the wall when I'm like expecting someone to come out of there, but when I'm ready to fight that angle, right? Like I'm peeking into it. I'm now aggressing the angle. I put my crosshair through the wall. I think that's what people are missing, or I see like when I coach my students a lot, is that sometimes they'll just not be ready to peek an angle. Like they don't have their crosshair through the wall ready for the fight. To dumb it down a little bit further is if you're about to peek an angle, make sure your crosshair is through the wall so you can have a straighter path in the peak, and you'll be like your crosshair placement will be ready for the fight, right? You see that? Just crosshair through the wall, peek, and all you have to do is click. And if you're holding an angle, then of course have your crosshair on the edge of the wall. You don't want to have your crosshair here, right? Because you're not peeking the angle anymore, you're holding. So that's why when you move around the map, you have your crosshair on the edge, right? Because you're not peeking anymore. You're moving and gaining space while trying to anticipate someone peeking you. So like you can hold your crosshair on the wall, but when you get close, ready to peek an angle, then you can stop and put your crosshair through the wall and peek out. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I just said peeking through the wall 80 times. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. If you made it this far, thank you, and good luck ranking up. Jesus Christ.